Hello there, fellow enthusiasts of the mysterious and the uncanny. Welcome to an enthralling journey that will lead you into the enigmatic world of the unexplained and the eerie. Today, we've prepared a trio of tales that will send shivers down your spine, making you question the boundaries between reality and the supernatural. But before we embark on these hair-raising narratives, we have a small request for you. Please consider hitting that subscribe button if you enjoy the stories we bring to life. Also, don't forget to show your support by clicking the like button and ensure you've enabled the notification bell so you never miss an update from our channel. Now, as the night deepens and the atmosphere grows more mysterious, get ready to immerse yourself in 3 gripping stories. These tales will transport you into the minds of those who've encountered the inexplicable, those who've brushed with the paranormal, and those who've faced the unknown. So grab your favorite blanket, dim the lights, and prepare to journey through Encounter a Mysterious Roommate, The Sinister Cellar, and The Ghostly Transaction. These narratives are bound to captivate your imagination and leave you with lingering questions about the extraordinary. Enjoy. Story 1. The Enigmatic Roommate. Once upon a time, in a bustling city where dreams and desperation often collided, lived a young woman named Emma. She had recently graduated from college, and with student loans looming over her head, she decided to look for a roommate to share her expenses. In her search, she came across a cryptic Craigslist ad that piqued her curiosity. The ad was simple, yet it exuded an air of mystery. Seeking roommate for a unique living experience. Inquire within for details. There was no name or contact information, just a location and a time. The address led her to an older, slightly dilapidated apartment building on the outskirts of the city. She was desperate, so she decided to check it out. Emma found herself standing outside the address at the appointed time. A gust of wind sent a shiver down her spine as she hesitated before ringing the doorbell. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a man in his 40s with a disarming smile. He introduced himself as Mr. Rourke and welcomed her inside. The apartment was dimly lit, and it felt like a place frozen in time. Antique furniture filled the living room, surrounded by old books and dusty artifacts. Mr. Rourke explained that the room available for rent was in the back of the apartment, and Emma followed him down a narrow corridor, which led to a wooden door with an ornate antique keyhole. The moment Emma stepped inside the room, a feeling of unease washed over her. The walls were covered in peculiar symbols, and the room seemed to have an inexplicable chill to it. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something about this place felt profoundly unsettling. Over the next few days, Emma started noticing odd occurrences, muffled whispers in the middle of the night, shadows moving across the room, and items mysteriously disappearing and reappearing. She decided to share her concerns with Mr. Rourke, but he dismissed them as mere coincidences. As the days turned into weeks, Emma became increasingly suspicious of her enigmatic roommate. She started doing her own research, uncovering the apartment's dark history. It was rumored to have been owned by a reclusive occultist who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago. Story 1. The Enigmatic Roommate. Once upon a time, in a bustling city where dreams and desperation often collided, lived a young woman named Emma. She had recently graduated from college, and with student loans looming over her head, she decided to look for a roommate to share her expenses. In her search, she came across a cryptic Craigslist ad that piqued her curiosity. The ad was simple, yet it exuded an air of mystery. Seeking roommate for a unique living experience. Inquire within for details. There was no name or contact information, just a location and a time. The address led her to an older, slightly dilapidated apartment building on the outskirts of the city. She was desperate, so she decided to check it out. Emma found herself standing outside the address at the appointed time. A gust of wind sent a shiver down her spine as she hesitated before ringing the doorbell. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a man in his 40s with a disarming smile. He introduced himself as Mr. Rourke and welcomed her inside. The apartment was dimly lit, and it felt like a place frozen in time. Antique furniture filled the living room, surrounded by old books and dusty artifacts. Mr. Rourke explained that the room available for rent was in the back of the apartment, and Emma followed him down a narrow corridor, which led to a wooden door with an ornate antique keyhole. The moment Emma stepped inside the room, a feeling of unease washed over her. The walls were covered in peculiar symbols, and the room seemed to have an inexplicable chill to it. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something about this place felt profoundly unsettling. Over the next few days, Emma started noticing odd occurrences, muffled whispers in the middle of the night, shadows moving across the room, and items mysteriously disappearing and reappearing. She decided to share her concerns with Mr. Rourke, but he dismissed them as mere coincidences. As the days turned into weeks, Emma became increasingly suspicious of her enigmatic roommate. She started doing her own research, uncovering the apartment's dark history. It was rumored to have been owned by a reclusive occultist who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago. One night, Emma couldn't ignore her unease any longer. Armed with her research, she confronted Mr. Rourke about the room's unsettling past. His demeanor shifted, and his disarming smile faded. He confessed that the room indeed had a dark history, but he assured her that it was all in the past. But Emma's instincts told her otherwise. She decided it was time to leave this eerie apartment and find a safer place to live. The following day, she packed her belongings and said her goodbyes. As she walked away from the building, she couldn't help but feel that she had narrowly escaped a nightmarish fate. In the end, Emma learned a valuable lesson about listening to her intuition and not ignoring the signs of danger. The enigmatic Craigslist ad had led her to an encounter with a mysterious roommate, one that would haunt her for years to come. She realized that sometimes the scariest stories aren't found in books or movies, but in the choices we make in our own lives. Seemed to dissipate into the air, leaving only an eerie chill in its wake. Emma couldn't explain what she had just witnessed. She was trapped in a nightmarish puzzle, and the pieces were becoming increasingly sinister. Unable to ignore the escalating strangeness any longer, Emma decided to confide in her friend, Lisa, who worked as a paranormal investigator in her free time. She described the enigmatic Craigslist ad, Mr. Rourke's behavior, and the eerie occurrences in the room. Lisa, fascinated by the story, offered to investigate the apartment. Armed with an array of ghost hunting equipment, she arrived one evening, accompanied by her team of paranormal experts. The apartment, once shrouded in darkness, was now flooded with a stark white light from their equipment. They began their investigation by setting up cameras, electromagnetic field detectors, and voice recording devices. As the night unfolded, the equipment started to pick up unusual readings. Strange symbols on the room's walls seemed to glow faintly, as if they were reacting to an invisible presence. Emma and Lisa listened in shock as the voice recording captured incoherent whispers and at times malevolent laughter. The paranormal team documented fluctuations in temperature and unexplainable electrical disturbances. It became clear that something otherworldly was indeed happening in the apartment. Lisa delved deeper into the history of the building, uncovering that it had once been owned by a man known as Dr. Nathaniel Blackwood, a reclusive occultist who had disappeared mysteriously. His research into the arcane had been rumored to be both groundbreaking and dangerous. With each piece of the puzzle coming together, the apartment's ominous atmosphere became more understandable. It seemed that Dr. Blackwood's presence still lingered, and he had somehow attached himself to the room and the mysterious Craigslist ad. Emma and Lisa decided to perform a ritual to cleanse the room of any lingering, malevolent energies. Armed with sage, incense, and ancient chants, they embarked on the daunting task. The room came alive with an eerie energy, and the air seemed to crackle with tension. As the ritual progressed, Emma felt an intense, icy grip around her wrist. It was as if an unseen force was trying to stop them, but they persisted, and with a final, resounding chant, the oppressive atmosphere in the room lifted. The symbols on the walls faded, and the temperature returned to normal. The apartment was never truly the same after that night. Emma decided to move out, leaving behind the enigmatic Craigslist ad, Mr. Rourke, and the dark history of Dr. Blackwood. She had escaped the nightmarish clutches of the room, but the experience had left a lasting impact on her. The encounter with the mysterious roommate and the paranormal investigation became a chapter in her life that she would never forget. It taught her the importance of trusting her instincts and seeking help when confronted with the unexplainable. As she left the apartment behind, she couldn't help but wonder what other mysteries and adventures awaited her in the future. Story 2: The Sinister Cellar. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, there lived a young woman named Sarah. She was known for her love of antiques and had a keen eye for unique and vintage items. One day, while scrolling through Craigslist, she stumbled upon an intriguing ad that read, "Antique mirror, a glimpse into the past, price $100, inquire for details." The ad had a mysterious allure that Sarah couldn't resist. Her curiosity piqued. Sarah reached out to the seller and arranged to meet at a nondescript aging house on the outskirts of town. The seller, who went by the name Mr. Monroe, greeted her warmly at the door. He was an older man with a stern expression and an air of secrecy about him. Inside the dimly lit house, Sarah was shown the antique mirror. It was ornate and beautifully crafted, exuding an aura of history. Mr. Monroe explained that the mirror was more than just a decorative piece. It had a reputation for showing glimpses of the past when gazed into. Sarah was both intrigued and skeptical, but the mirror's charm was undeniable, and she decided to purchase it. As she brought the mirror home and placed it in her living room, she couldn't shake the feeling that it held a secret. That night, Sarah couldn't resist the temptation to look into the mirror. She gazed deeply into its reflective surface, and to her astonishment, the room seemed to fade away. She found herself transported to a different time and place. Sarah was now in a dimly lit room that bore a striking resemblance to her own, but it was decades in the past. The furniture, the wallpaper, and the clothing of the people around her all belonged to a different era. She watched in astonishment as scenes from the past played out before her eyes, like an old black and white movie. For days, Sarah became engrossed in the mirror, reliving moments from the past. She observed historical events, everyday life, and even some deeply personal and emotional moments of people who had once owned the mirror. It was as if she had found a portal to another time, and she was captivated by the lives she could glimpse. However, as Sarah delved deeper into the mirror's mysteries, she began to realize that her newfound ability came with a sinister cost. She noticed a disturbing pattern. The people she saw in the mirror were tormented, their lives filled with tragedy, misfortune, and even violence. The mirror seemed to have a malevolent agenda, showing her the darkest aspects of history. As Sarah's fascination turned into an obsession, her own life began to unravel. She withdrew from her friends, neglecting her job and her own well-being. She couldn't tear herself away from the mirror, even as she witnessed the toll it was taking on her own existence. One fateful night, as Sarah gazed into the mirror, she saw a disturbing vision. It was her own reflection, but it was distorted and grotesque. The room around her had transformed into a nightmarish realm, and she realized that she had become a part of the mirror's dark history. Terrified and desperate, Sarah knew she had to break free from the mirror's grip. She sought help from a paranormal expert who had dealt with similar cases. Together, they performed a ritual to sever the mirror's connection to her. It was a harrowing experience, but in the end, the mirror's hold on her was broken, and she was freed from its sinister influence. The antique mirror, once a source of intrigue, was banished from Sarah's life, locked away in a place where it could harm no one else. Sarah had learned a chilling lesson about the dangers of the past and the price one could pay for meddling with the unknown. As she moved on with her life, she couldn't help but wonder about the fate of Mr. Monroe, the seller who had entangled her in this web of darkness. Little did she know that the sinister seller had disappeared, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and an eerie legacy that continued to haunt her dreams. With the antique mirror safely locked away, Sarah was determined to uncover the truth about Mr. Monroe, the enigmatic seller who had introduced her to the mirror's malevolent powers. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story, and the unsettling events surrounding the mirror had left her with lingering questions. Sarah began her quest for answers by delving into the details she had about Mr. Monroe. She retraced her steps to the nondescript house where she had first met him, only to find it abandoned and in disrepair. The neighbors told her that Mr. Monroe had suddenly disappeared without a trace, shortly after she had bought the mirror. They too had sensed something peculiar about him, but couldn't put their finger on it. Her search took her to a local library, where she hoped to find any information about Mr. Monroe's past. As she combed through old newspaper archives and city records, she stumbled upon an unsettling discovery. It turned out that Mr. Monroe's name was associated with a series of bizarre occurrences and unexplained disappearances over the years. His involvement with antique items that held strange and sometimes dangerous powers was a recurring theme. Sarah's determination to uncover the truth led her to track down individuals who had dealt with Mr. Monroe in the past. She discovered a trail of victims who had fallen into the same web of darkness that she had. Each had their own sinister tale to tell, and the common thread was always an antique item that brought them more than they had bargained for. As she collected these stories, Sarah also began to notice a recurring symbol that appeared in connection with Mr. Monroe and the objects he sold. The symbol seemed ancient and arcane, and its meaning remained a mystery, but it was clear that it was associated with the paranormal. Sarah realized that the Sinister seller had been part of a clandestine world, dealing in objects that held dark and mysterious powers. The mirror was just one of many items that Mr. Monroe had passed on to unsuspecting buyers, each with its own malevolent. Story 3. The Ghostly Transaction. In the heart of a quaint, historic town, nestled amidst cobblestone streets and century-old houses, lived a man named Daniel. He had recently inherited a charming yet dilapidated Victorian home that had been in his family for generations. The house had become more of a burden than a treasure, as it required extensive renovations and upkeep. Desperate to raise funds, Daniel decided to part with some of the antique furniture and oddities that had accumulated over the years. One day, while scrolling through Craigslist, he came across an ad that caught his attention. Antique writing desk for sale, $200. The seller was a woman named Emily, and she lived in a neighboring town. Intrigued by the prospect of finding a buyer who might appreciate the desk's vintage charm, Danielle reached out to her to arrange a meeting. They agreed to meet at a small local cafe to discuss the transaction. Daniel, an unassuming and practical man, arrived early, carrying old family heirlooms in the back of his car. The antique writing desk, a beautiful piece adorned with intricate carvings, took center stage in the assortment. Emily arrived promptly, and they exchanged pleasantries over cups of steaming coffee. She was a woman in her 40s, with an air of mystery about her that Daniel couldn't quite put his finger on. Emily seemed genuinely interested in the desk, admiring its craftsmanship and detailing. As they finalized the transaction, Daniel and Emily discussed the history of the desk. He mentioned that it had been in his family for generations, passed down from his great-grandmother. Emily, with a distant look in her eyes, revealed that she had a penchant for collecting antique items with unique stories behind them. Despite the pleasant interaction, Daniel couldn't help but feel a strange chill in the air. It was as if the cafe had grown colder, and he sensed a subtle unease in Emily's demeanor. Nevertheless, the sale went smoothly, and he watched her drive away with the antique desk in tow. Over the next few days, Daniel began to experience a series of inexplicable occurrences in his home. Muffled whispers and eerie shadows danced in the corners of his vision. The antique items that he had intended to sell seemed to have taken on a life of their own. The writing desk, in particular, became a focal point for the paranormal activity. Late one night, Daniel awoke to the sound of creaking floorboards. As he cautiously ventured into the living room, he was met with a chilling sight. The antique writing desk was aglow in an eerie, ethereal light, and the air was thick with an otherworldly presence. To his astonishment, he saw the figure of a woman sitting at the desk, her ghostly fingers tracing invisible words on the surface. She was dressed in a vintage gown, and her eyes were fixed on the blank pages of an old journal. As Daniel drew closer, he noticed the resemblance between the ghostly woman and Emily, the buyer from Craigslist. The apparition looked up and met his gaze, her eyes filled with a melancholy longing. She began to speak in hushed tones, revealing a tragic tale of love and loss that was intricately tied to the writing desk. The ghostly woman was Emily's great-grandmother, and the desk held the memories of a forbidden romance from a bygone era. Daniel, with a mixture of fear and empathy, listened to the spirit's story. He realized that the antique items he had inherited were more than just material possessions. They were vessels for the lingering spirits of the past. Emily had unknowingly purchased the writing desk to reconnect with her ancestors' lost love. In a bid to help the tormented spirit find peace, Daniel reached out to Emily to share his haunting encounter. Emily was shocked to learn the truth about her great-grandmother's restless spirit and the connection to the writing desk. She agreed to return the antique piece to Daniel, hoping to finally put her ancestor's soul to rest. Together, they conducted a solemn ritual to free the ghostly presence from the writing desk and guide it to the afterlife. As the spirit slowly dissipated, a sense of serenity washed over the room, and the antique items that had once been fraught with paranormal activity returned to their ordinary state. The Craigslist transaction had not only brought a buyer and seller together, but also bridged the gap between the living and the dead. Daniel and Emily couldn't help but reflect on the haunting nature of their encounter, reminding them that the online marketplace could sometimes connect people in ways they never could have imagined. In the wake of the paranormal encounter and the subsequent resolution, Daniel and Emily forged an unexpected bond. They realized that the antique desk, with its tragic history and ghostly presence, had brought them together for a reason. They decided to embark on a journey to uncover more about Emily's great-grandmother's lost love story and to honor the memory of the spirits tied to the antique items they had both inherited. They researched their respective family histories and uncovered a treasure trove of letters, diaries, and photographs that revealed the tale of love and tragedy from the past. The story was so compelling that they decided to collaborate on a book, chronicling the haunting and heartwarming events that had unfolded. Their joint effort not only helped them understand the history behind the antique items, but also provided closure for the spirits who had lingered in the background of their lives. The book became a bestseller, and their journey into the world of the supernatural brought them recognition and a newfound sense of purpose. As time went on, Daniel and Emily's connection deepened into a profound friendship. They continued to explore the boundaries of the paranormal, and together they assisted others in unraveling the mysteries of their own antique items, bridging the gap between the living and the dead. The ghostly transaction from Craigslist had left a lasting mark on both of their lives. It taught them that sometimes the online world could lead to extraordinary connections, and that even in the most unexpected places, there were stories waiting to be uncovered, told, and, most importantly, remembered. As we draw the curtain on this spellbinding compilation of stories, we want to express our deepest gratitude for your company on this extraordinary journey. It's been an honor to share these tales of mystery and the unexplained with you. If you've enjoyed our content, please remember to hit that subscribe button to stay connected with us and continue exploring the unknown. Don't forget to click the like button if you found these stories as captivating as we did, and ensure the notification bell is active so you never miss our future adventures. And as we part ways, we leave you with this thought. The world is full of enigmatic wonders and uncharted territories, waiting for the curious and the fearless to explore. So, as you step away from this video, we encourage you to keep seeking the extraordinary in your own life and in the world around you. Thank you for being a part of our journey, and we look forward to embarking on many more adventures with you in the future. Until next time, stay curious, stay open to the inexplicable, and always be ready for the next thrilling tale that awaits. Goodbye, and take care.